Hi, it's Tziporah here. This video is about borderline personality disorder and paranoia. I'll talk about why it happens, what it feels like, and what to do about it. And at the end of the video, I'll share with you what I experienced when my paranoia was at its worst, so be sure to stick around till the end. Why do borderlines struggle with paranoia and paranoid ideation? Borderline personality disorder means to experience the borderline of neurosis and psychosis. That is why so many borderlines have comorbid conditions or diagnoses such as anxiety, depression, OCD, and so on. Neurosis and psychosis build the condition, so each of these things lends to different symptoms. The psychosis portion can cause paranoia, paranoid ideation, hallucinations, suspicion, and loss of touch with reality. And this is why one of the 9 traits of borderline personality disorder is suspicion and loss of touch with reality. One facet of paranoia is that someone can develop an outer critic from trauma and emotional neglect from childhood. The outer critic essentially scares the borderline out of trusting others. This even gets to the point of paranoia and over-controlling behaviors, stopping communication, and so on, all to prevent a perceived threat. The traumatic and emotionally distressing environment from childhood, which involves unsafe, unstable, unpredictable parents, can add to the paranoia or unsafe feelings of relationships or life overall. So what kind of paranoia do people with BPD experience? Paranoid ideation is the general issue for borderlines, and this is not the same thing as delusional paranoia. When experiencing paranoid ideation, one doesn't feel like they have 100% proof of the thing that they are suspicious or paranoid about, but the data that they do have and the suspicion is enough to make the case, so to speak. Whereas delusional paranoia involves beliefs that are false and fixed, such as the government's out to get you or people are plotting to kill you, and so on. Borderlines can often experience paranoid ideation and suspicious thoughts. This isn't full-blown paranoia, but it's enough to consume the thoughts and cause rumination. Usually this can come out when triggered, under stress, or vulnerable from not practicing enough self-care. What brings out the paranoia and what does it look like? Stress is a huge factor, and it's probably one of the top reasons why paranoia would be set off. It can cause non-delusional paranoia, which is paranoid ideation, and this involves seeing hidden threats in speech, behavior, body language, and environment. This can also involve imagining interpersonal slights and threats that aren't really there, and often putting lots of weight into facial expressions, reading between the lines, mind reading, just knowing, and so on. Overall, it can become very damaging to relationships. Another thing that can bring out paranoia is dissociation, which many borderlines experience. Dissociation can make familiar places seem unfamiliar, which can set off the uneasiness or paranoia. So what to do about the paranoia? There is the overall recovery process and working on healing, which will lessen things over time. This involves inner child work, emotional intelligence, and engaging with the wise mind or utilizing rational thoughts. There are a few useful skills in therapy called check the facts or opposite action, which can often curb a paranoid spiral. But skills on the surface are more of a band-aid on top of the emotional wounds that still need to be healed. Another tip for the meantime is to try not to feed the paranoia with proving anything. Rather, try to do some deep breathing and grounding, even distracting yourself with your interests and hobbies. So what have I struggled with my paranoid ideation? I'll give some detailed examples as well as just general things. I've had pretty bad suspicions about relationships, which included ending friendships and having suspicion or paranoia in my spousal relationships and how secure I was truly in it. In times of stress or lack of sleep, things would be worse. The last time I remember being in a severe situational paranoia was after giving birth. I was overtired and exhausted and felt that the nurses and doctors were talking about me and judging me. The thing is, I was in a bilingual hospital, so I was hearing these perceived threats in English, but really they would have been speaking Hebrew. So that is how I know it was incorrect. Previously, I went through a very long period of germ and disease paranoia, which would also be considered contamination anxiety. I was very distressed by germs and contracting illness. I would plan my moves and position with those that I was with in order to avoid touching contaminants. And I struggled a lot regarding disease, which means there would be times where I would focus on different things, such as lumps in my breasts or so on, and then become consumed with that topic. I've also gone through different stages of perceiving danger that didn't exist, so that would involve double, triple, quadruple checking things, all to prevent a disaster. The longest issue would have probably been a subtle underlying paranoia of being observed in public. Now, this would lean more towards social anxiety or being uncomfortable in public spaces, but it was severe enough in the paranoia that it was something that I had to work on overcoming. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more of our content, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care of yourself and stay gold.